This podcast is powered by Royal Adjusting. If you're a new, aspiring, or a veteran property adjuster, head over to royaladjusting.com and join the roster for work opportunities. Hey, IAs, welcome to the new Adjuster Talk podcast by IA Path. I'm your co-host, Chris Stanley, and I'm joined by the founder of this podcast, my co-host, Jason Heenan. Each week, we bring a panel together and talk about the big questions that you face as an independent adjuster when you're getting started or trying to grow your business and career. And today, our panelist that we have with us is Brad Fancher. He is the auto and heavy equipment instructor at IA Path. And Tinecia Johnson, we call her TJ. She is the desk adjusting instructor at IA Path, all things liability, total loss, bodily injury, workers' comp, things of that nature. And so today we are going to talk about what the hardest part about being an independent adjuster is. And now that doesn't sound real good on the internet, but we want to tell you the truth to where you could be prepared in your career. So guys and gals, thank you so much for being here. Super excited. We have a question though to start you guys off with. It's an icebreaker here. And we're gonna start with TJ because she's the newest guest here. What is your number one adjuster horror story? A claim gone wrong, an embarrassing moment. Listen, anything goes. Don't hold back.
Okay. So I had a claim where an insured reported that he was shot in his vehicle while parked. And as I'm taking the first notice of loss from him, this was many years ago, typically we would ask for a phone number before we start the claim process. In the event we're disconnected, is instead of the insured calling back, we can reach back out to them. So he gave me the phone number, and midway through the claim, call dropped. So I called the number back that he gave me, and there was a lady that answered the phone. And I said, hey, good afternoon, Mrs. So-and-so. My name is Tinecia Johnson. I'm calling from blank insurance company. If y'all that know me know where I used to work. I'm calling from. I need to speak with Mr. Because he's setting up a claim, and I want to go ahead and wrap up with him. She says, what claim? And I said, oh, with the F-150 that got shot. What do you mean shot? I said, oh, okay. I said, well, he reported that he got shot and the vehicle sustained some damages last night. She said, he didn't come home last night. I'll call you back, and hangs up the phone. And I'm like, oh my God. So then he ends up calling back, and they get him back to me. He then also tells me, and I guess his wife was blowing him up on the other line. He tells me that he had a female companion in the vehicle with him while he was parked in the vehicle, and her husband was the one that shot him.
Ooh.
And I said, Jason. So meanwhile, now the wife supposed to talk back to me. Yeah, I got all of these people's business. So then, unfortunately, I ended up the claim got round robin back to me. So now I have to call everybody and take statements. So I called the companion and to get her statement. And I guess her husband wasn't very happy that I called, and let's just say that call did not end well. Meanwhile, Mr. Insured and his gunshot wound and his dog and PlayStation 3 ended up outside. Needless to say, I did not break up that happy home. He just needs to be more careful about what phone numbers you're giving during the first notice of loss. That's all I got.
That's awesome. I love it. Now we're going to force Jason Heenan here to follow up this amazing love triangle story from Tinecia Johnson of IA Path and Jason Heenan from Royal Adjusting with the PG version of his story. No, I'm just kidding. Jason, turn loose, man. Give it what you got.
How do you follow that one? That is incredible, TJ. So she was like doing a Jerry Springer episode right there at FNL.
That's exactly what happened.
Oh man, that is great. All right, Stanley. So this was a tough one. I have written down 6 examples, and I'm just gonna list them real quick, and then tell you probably the most airtime friendly. But the stories we're passing on. We had a murder suicide that was horrific. We looked at just last month. We had a lady last year have a standoff with the police and pour fuel all over herself and light it.
Wow.
We have had a contractor confront an adjuster and then call in and say the adjuster was drunk and eating out of the trash can. They hated the adjuster that much they wanted a new one. And then a water backup story. I'm gonna save that and just tell this one. There was a claim in this was a Hurricane Ike 2008, and it was another big house, wealthy people. And one thing that the wealthy have in common is they are all strategists of some sort, right? And this family, or this husband and wife who owned the house, they filed a claim. The first inspection didn't go how they wanted to. They wanted, a basic remodel is what they were looking for, and I think they ended up with a roof and maybe paint a roof. I don't know what the situation was. It's been a long time, but they wanted this stuff so bad that the insured's husband, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Insured, they file this supplement. I come out there to inspect the claim, and they had, this kind of goes along with what TJ was saying here, just interesting how the situation ended up like it did. But the husband and wife insured team were basically setting up a scenario for a sexual harassment claim, or they were baiting me, the adjuster, into making some mistake because she was dressed terribly thin and was obviously distracting. But I kind of did my research and knew that they were a handful just from reading the notes. But she's walking me around showing the spots and such in the master bedroom, and you could tell there was just something going on, something weird. And after repeated attempts just to kind of get me to step in or lean into the situation a little bit, and of course I had other things to do. I had another appointment to go to the next hour. The last thing I'm thinking about is whatever their agenda is. The insured's husband steps out of the closet. They were trying to bust me and make that a monetary situation to their favor by setting up some sort of I don't know, some just shady situation.
Adjuster Springer. This is Adjuster
Springer. Yeah.
This is what we're calling this episode, Adjuster Springer.
Oh, they were so disappointed when I was too dumb to take the bait.
That's terrible. Gosh, who would think to do that?
Apparently more than one person.
They wanted a big check.
All right, Brad Fancher. Now you get to follow that up. 2 Springer episodes back to back. You get to go. I think Brad's blushing over here just from those first 2 stories. So, Brad, go ahead and tell us your adjuster horror story.
Yeah, let me go first next time. I can't top that. I guess probably the scariest, honestly, for me was my very first claim. Of course, I was so pumped to get it. I received it. I received it about 9 a.m. in the morning. It was literally an hour away. I dropped everything that I had planned for that day because it's my first one and I want to hit it out of the park. They called it something that I'd never heard of. It was called a supplement assist. I was like, what in the world? And so I was too afraid to even ask what that is. But I did see in the documents an already written estimate. So thankfully, my brain just said, hey, print that. Take that with you. So I printed that estimate. Sure enough, it was a desk review. The insurance company had already written, an estimate off of photos that the owner had taken. And it was at a body shop, which added another level of fear because I'm going to be talking to this expert, and I'm just starting. And I get there. Thankfully, the guy that ran the estimate side of the shop had been doing it years. I guess he probably picked up that I was brand new. He helped me. But anyway, the estimate that the insurance company wrote was about $1,200. His supplement was over $12,000. And so he walked me through that. The vehicle was totaled, but the other level of fear or just craziness was that their estimate was written in a completely different software than what I had been trained on. So it was just all kinds of tension and stress, and finally I completed that file. I think I made 30 cents an hour after it was completed. But we got through
Totally
it.
know about those. I totally know about those. Obviously, you didn't pick up the phone and call me and say, what's a supplement assist? But that's another issue for another day. Bad you should have called. No, it's good. That's an awesome story. I can see that being intimidating. All right, so we've got a few minutes here left. I'll try to squeeze my story in real quick because you guys were awesome, and I'll never compete with that. But basically, I go up to a very rural inspection. I'm busy. I'm traveling 3 hours north, 3 hours south, 3 hours east and west. I'm really at the edge of my capacity, and I should have known to shrink my territory earlier, but I get to this claim. It's in the middle of nowhere. I feel like we didn't have GPSs. My wife and I used to use MapQuest all the time, and my in-laws bought us a GPS, they said, to save our marriage, because my wife was my driver, and it was very stressful. But we finally find this thing in the middle of nowhere. Thank God, is this the car? I get out of the car. I go look at the VIN number, and I'm like, okay, it's it. I take my picture. I've never knocked on the door, right? And the guy steps out with a gun. And he is mad, so mad, thinking I'm trying to steal it, tow it, whatever. And I'm like, listen, I'm here to do an inspection. It was a no-call, no-show. So they asked me to show up to this place because he hadn't been answering his phone. And he wouldn't answer my call. So I just showed up in the middle of nowhere. And he was so mad. He did not let me look at that car. And I did not want to look at that car. That was another lesson learned. Knock on the door first. Introduce yourself first before going and taking pictures of somebody's vehicle. If I had confirmed it was the right vehicle, even then I should have went to the door first, introduced myself, then said go confirm the vehicle. But always introduce yourself first so you don't have a gun pulled on you. So that's my adjuster horror story. I left there with no bullets. We were happy to be out of there and happy to lose all that time driving and money and gas for that lesson. All right. So that's my horror story. Now, all that being said, those are great horror stories, but what is the hardest part about being an IA? And since Brad is so intimidated following TJ and Jason, we're going to let Brad go first and say, Brad, what is the hardest part about being an IA for you?
Jason and TJ, they're like the veterans, and I'm still rookie, man. So again, I think, wow, it has a lot to do with where you're at. The hard things for a new appraiser, a new adjuster versus, even 3.5 years in are completely, quite a bit different. So what I'm dealing with now is managing claim load, whereas in the beginning, I would have given anything, or I thought anything, to have this kind of claim load. But now, claim load, and then of course, I've said it quite a few times, you're launching a business. I am my business's employee. I'm the business staff, but I'm also the CEO. I'm trying to do bookkeeping. I'm trying to do correspondence, supplements, statusing, trying to make sure I'm being profitable. It's just a lot of things that you're dealing with, even the situation TJ talked about, so many zeros, I think in the last episode maybe, but it's just a lot of challenges, scheduling, finding time to do, admin, bookkeeping, but also, the boundary of, okay, when do I stop being a business? When do I stop working and focus on my health and, just life? Because again, you're a business owner and you're thinking, man, just one goof up and my whole business goes down. I know even coming out of our mouth, it sounds silly, but those are the things that are going on in our head. It's just quite a few different challenges, but I mean, they're not, it's tension to manage, not, or problems to manage, not problems to solve. Cause every level is going to present a new set of challenges. So if you're looking for this challenge-free reality, I don't even know if it exists, to be honest with you. That's when you stop, you become stagnant. You're no longer successful, probably. So
Love that answer, man. That was good. All right, TJ, now you got to follow that up.
Yeah.
We're gonna go ahead and make you follow that. Put some pressure on you, TJ. See how you can top Brad when it comes to what's the hardest part about being an IA to you?
Trusting in your skill set.
It's good.
Confidence. When I first started out as an IA back in 2017, I didn't know a lot about it, other than I had a friend who kind of reeled me in, who I worked previously with as a staff adjuster, and she had been successful with doing it. And, she was telling me about it. I mean, it was like kind of hit and miss. It wasn't necessarily an informative conversation because she was super new. She was like a year in. So as she was receiving information, she was funneling it down to me, but we were still pretty much still new in this environment. I knew the claims, but new to the IA environment. So for me, my first year, I panicked when my assignment was over because I had no idea what to do next. Even though I had all these skill sets, I didn't know what all was available to me. So the perception for me and what I heard, we associated IAs with catastrophe. And I'd like to see those two terms separate, because IA, you can be an IA and it not necessarily be just a CAT adjuster, as we've learned within the last couple of years and as IA Path has developed. So for me, what the hardest thing for me was trusting in my skill set and knowing that I can still continue to get work, even though it's not CAT work. I didn't trust the process. I didn't manage my money properly. I could be honest and say that the first year I did not. I had poor money management skills. I didn't trust in networking, and I didn't understand how and I panicked so bad. I went back into the insurance industry and I got another staff job because I panicked. I didn't know that, okay, you save your money, take a couple of months off, take care of yourself, spend some time with your family. And if you just strictly want to be a CAT adjuster, even though there are other disciplines out there, if you strictly want to be a CAT adjuster, health season comes up in March, April, hurricane season in June. You just really structure it to how it is that you want to work, not for the company to work you. I didn't trust in the process, and I didn't have the confidence. I wish IA Path was around when I first started, or I was connected to you or IA Path, because I likely would have made a lot of different decisions early on. So it was just more so the confidence of the what next. If they pull the plug on you on that day, what do you do? So you go into work, you expect to work, they say, okay, assignment's over, we've run out of work. What do you do? And I panicked.
That's good. That is a really hard part about it. But I'm glad you went through that, because it's made you better at who you are and to share with others and kind of give you this passion
Absolutely.
to help other people realize it. So although I'm sad you went through it and panicked, I'm glad you went through it. Now, Jason, we got about 9 minutes left for me and you to share a little bit here. So why don't you go ahead and take it and let people know what you think being the hardest part about being an IA is from your perspective, but also from being the owner of a firm, a true firm that employs other adjusters, across the nation.
Great, Chris. I'd like to give a little feedback on TJ and Brad for a second. TJ, my story is just like yours. I had, I focused on results, which was good, focused on at the beginning, understanding that I'm selling each report individually. So each report has to stand on its own value. But I did not respect, after that money came into my account, I was just like, cool, I work for this, it's mine, and then spend how I want. And I think that's a common thing, to not respect just how valuable your hard work is and how valuable your money is. And it takes time, man. It takes a lot of time and a lot of mistakes for me, slow learner, hard knocks learner, to, be good at finances and stuff like that. So I can definitely sympathize with her learning to manage money, which is a good problem to have, but you must know it and you must respect it. And then, so my answer is the hardest thing is kind of, it is parallel to what Brad said. And then I'm just going to say it in a few different words. When you open a business like this, you have to open more than the business. You have to open your schedule and your life to the new types of problems. And then you have to accommodate those things. Okay. So here comes this new whirlwind of problems and troubles that you've never dealt with before. And they are going to insert themselves into your life. It is your business, and those are your problems to deal with. Okay. And so, it sounds cliche to say, oh, finding this balance and doing that. But think about it. If you have all these different things that you've never had before, you've had a job where you went somewhere else and worked for somebody and handled their problems. And whenever you were done handling their problems, you left and you came home and you had your life. That no longer exists. Okay. Your problems are your problems when you wake up. They're your problems when they go to sleep. Now, back to the original point. Whenever you start out and they move into your life, meaning these claims and these phone calls and these new managers and these emails and all these things you work so hard and train so hard to acquire, they're going to take over other areas of your life. And if you don't choose, hey, these are the things I need to get rid of so I can focus on this thing, this future, this path I'm building for myself, then life, if you don't do that, life is what gets to decide what stays and what goes. And if you don't choose it, life is going to pick some big, ugly things that you don't want to get rid of. Money problems, marriage problems, those are probably the two biggest things I see on a common, on a weekly or monthly basis from adjusters is they'll control their business and then lose control of the other things that perhaps those things were the things that made room in their life for adjusting in the first place. And they'll get the adjusting and then those things will move out or take a back burner or not even have a place on the stove. Who knows? But that's my long answer to a short, easy question is just understanding what's happening to your life and what you're inviting in. Like a vampire, you got to make sure that, you have a plan to deal with all these things.
It's so true. I mean, like that was the answer I picked on. You all basically went with it. It's the balance, or I always say claiming your life. Like claiming your life is the hardest part of being an adjuster because it starts off with, I just need to get some work so I make some money so I can live and eat another day. And then it becomes, okay, I just need to make a little more money so I can save up for this. I just need to make a little more money for this so I can go on this big vacation or buy this house or car. And it just keeps escalating. But if you're not careful, you lose your life. Claims will literally consume your life. And that's any business. It's not just adjusting. It's anytime you're in a business. And I think it's partially because money is easy to measure. You see, I made 80 grand. Tinecia's got all these zeros. Tinecia did better than me, or Tinecia did better than she did last year, right? She's got all those zeros. With your marriage, it's not so cut and dry. It's not so cut and dry to see that your marriage is healthy or that your kids love your dad, because you don't know with your teenager half the time anyways. You have no freaking clue. So there's no way to measure that tangibly. And so it's really easy. Like, I want to win, and so I'm addicted to winning. And an easy win is to go close another claim, and I get an endorphin hit. It's a physical response to that. And so I believe that's the hardest part about being an IA is making sure you claim your life, you set up the boundaries, you actually balance your life. It's really hard, really easy to say, really hard to do, but balancing your life and making sure that you're happy with where you're going and happy as you are on the way to get there. Otherwise, you'll be miserable your whole life because you're probably never going to get to ultimately where you want to be. And then if you're not happy with where you're at while you're trying to get to where you want to be, you're just miserable the whole time. So claim your life, people. We're running out of time on this episode. Any final thoughts, TJ, Brad, or Jason, before we close out?
I think we need to have an episode where we talk about work life, because a lot of us have spouses, children, and work long hours. Like, how do you dissect your time between having a successful business and making sure that your family gets what they need? I think we definitely need to talk about that.
Brad, any closing thoughts, Brad?
I've loved every single one of these episodes that I've been a part of, but again, we probably don't talk about this enough in the business world, and that is this emotion called fear. And how do you wrestle this thing? It's like no one wants to talk about it, but the reality is we're all dealing with it, and again, it can be conquered. But how do you do it? And specifically in the claims world, how do you deal with it? So, tons to talk about. I mean, it's so much more than just getting an assignment and inspecting, writing an estimate. I mean, that's just a little piece of what we do. And then how do you deal with when you're the only human in their entire claim process, and they're reaching out to you and they're dealing with a loss, right. That's something else that I deal with a lot, so lots to talk about.
Jason, final thoughts. My list keeps growing.
Chris, I'm so grateful that you invited these great panelists and put this together. It has been so fun, and I look forward to recording with you guys next time, and I hope that our listening base out there, even if it's just one person, hope you're able to take some information from this show and at least apply it to your own life, even if you're not an adjuster planning on becoming an adjuster.
Absolutely. And if you did enjoy this episode, if you enjoyed TJ, Brad, leave us a review in iTunes. Say, TJ was awesome. I want to have as many zeros as TJ. I want to be like Brad, whatever. We'll make some shirts, be like Brad. Whatever the case is, put it in the comments of iTunes, whatever got you to leave that review. We'd love to hear it. Share this episode on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you spend time on social media. And until next week, keep walking your path and claiming your life. Thanks, TJ. Thanks, Brad. Thanks for being our panelist. Jason, thanks for your time. And thank you guys so much for doing this. I think there's a lot of value here.